On today's episode of AskBrick, I am answering one single question, and that is, what is my biggest LEGO regret? This regret, fun fact, or not so fun fact for me, is actually so big, I actually blocked it out for these last 4 years until it recently popped back into my memory, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it ever since, because you guys, every single person in this community is going to agree that this probably would be their biggest LEGO regret too. So I'm going to tell you guys about it today. So this question was actually asked by BCat on YouTube. Ask Brick, what is your biggest LEGO regret? And when he asked this question a few months ago, I actually didn't really know what to answer until I was recently listening to a podcast, a LEGO podcast, and it triggered a memory that I regretted so much at the time that I actually blocked out of my brain. Like, this bothered me so much 4 years ago that I turned that part of my brain off and never thought about it since, until I saw this podcast clip.
And also, that's the reason why I hate the Christmas X-Wing. So every time I see it, I want to like kick it. Because there was
a reminder.
Yeah, because that was my set. Like, I was supposed to get one of those for free, and they had one in the back for me. So that was like another, because remember, they also turned me right before my birthday, right before Christmas, and right before my daughter was born. So this is all hits, all this emotion. It's just like sitting there festering inside.
Sure.
So that is from Shy Time is My Time's newest podcast, Sitting on a Stoop. He's talking about his experience at the LEGO store, how it didn't end nicely back in 2019, and he talked about the LEGO Star Wars employee X-Wing that was given out to the employees at Christmas time. So a little backstory, I also started working at LEGO in 2019. I've talked about that on my channel a lot here, and I actually stopped working in LEGO around October or November of 2019. It was a really great run while I was at the LEGO store. I really enjoyed my time there. I loved my coworkers. I loved the discount. It was great. However, at that time, the reason I quit the LEGO store was because I was beginning to become really involved in student politics at my school, and the LEGO store was an hour and a half away, and I was having to commute there 3 or 4 times a week just for a 4-hour shift. I would have loved to have maybe like 1 or 2 8-hour shifts, and I would have stayed working there, but that just wasn't the way the store was structured. And with my involvement with student politics, I was just getting honestly way too busy to be spending that much time commuting to the store just for, quite frankly, the minimum wage job it was paying. Like, I was just doing it for fun at this point. I needed a summer job to save up, but while I was in school, I was able to just work and focus on the extracurriculars. I didn't necessarily need the job. I just wanted to keep it to have that kind of a social life. So when student politics started ramping up and the commute was getting really worse and like the hours weren't that good, I unfortunately had to put in my notice at the LEGO store. They really did try and get me to stay, and they tried to convince me to stay at least till the end of the year because there was an employee bonus and the LEGO store employee gift, which unfortunately I wasn't going to receive if I left the LEGO store early. You guys can probably guess where this is going now. I thought about it and I decided that even though a gift would be really cool and that bonus would be nice, I unfortunately just couldn't spend any more time commuting to and from the LEGO store for those 4-hour shifts because student politics was ramping up and I needed to spend all my time doing that to be successful. So unfortunately, I did put in my 2-week notice and I proceeded to leave the LEGO store. Fast forward a few months later, 1 or 2 months, the LEGO 2019 employee gift was revealed. And you guys guessed it, it was the LEGO Star Wars Christmas X-Wing. Obviously at the time, I'm not a big Star Wars fan. You guys know that. You've watched this channel for many years now. I am not a huge Star Wars fan, so I remember at the time, I was like, oh, that's a really cool set, but I don't really care because I'm not a Star Wars fan. You know, when I was thinking of getting an employee gift, I wasn't thinking about the resale value because we weren't really supposed to sell those things. I wasn't thinking of any of that at the time because I was working at the LEGO store. I was just thinking, oh, I wish I was getting like one of the other cooler sets that came out in previous years that I would have actually liked to build. And the Star Wars one, I was like, well, it's whatever. And then I was like, oh, then I clicked in. I was like, oh, the resale value on that set might be pretty good. And everybody, the community, when it was released, blew up. I remember everybody was so excited about this set. They loved it. They wanted to get it. Everybody wished they were employees. They wished they were part of LAN or a lug where they could get it and stuff like that. Everybody wanted this set, and I was like, oh, shit. I probably should have stayed at the LEGO store a little bit longer to get it. And I never got it, obviously. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I never really thought much about it. I just thought, hey, it was a cool set that I missed out on. But now, here I am, 4 years later. This set is worth like over $1,000 that I would have gotten for free. It would have been such a great payday. It would have been such a great LEGO set to have on the shelves. And I think that's my biggest regret in Lego is not getting this Lego Star Wars Employees gift. If I would have been able to hold on a month or maybe 2 months more, I would have got the bonus and they would have got this Christmas gift. They probably had submitted their numbers because they had just done all the seasonal hiring for that year. They probably had already submitted their numbers for how many employee gifts they needed to get. There probably was an employee gift for me set aside. I don't know. I didn't ever ask because I had left the Lego store at that point. I had moved on from that point. But that is definitely my biggest Lego regret. I could have owned the Lego Star Wars X-Wing had I stayed at the Lego store another month or two. That set now is worth over $1,000. It would have been a great resale value. I could have bought a ton of Lego sets that I really want today for the same price as that one set. And I really regret not sticking around the Lego store for that 1 or 2 months, especially when the management and the employees all tried to get me to stay at the store because they didn't want to see me leave. But I gave my notice and I missed out on that incredible set. And like I said, this memory was so painful to me. I remember having these thoughts in 2019, being a little bummed out, having a little FOMO for not getting the set, and then I completely repressed it. And then when I was watching Shy Time is My Time's podcast and he was talking about the X-Wing, I was like, oh my God, that's right. That was the same year I worked at the Lego store, and he has another reason for disliking that set and disliking the Lego group, of course. But when I was listening to that podcast, I was like, no, right? That wasn't my year. And it's funny how you totally block out a memory that you don't want to remember. I didn't want to remember the fact that I gave up this very expensive Lego set that I could have got for free and could have resold. I blocked that out. I remember thinking in 2019 that kind of sucks, and I never thought about it again. All through the pandemic, all through everything I've been through, even at Brickworld when everyone was like, I really want this set. It never once clicked to me that I gave up the set by not staying at the Lego store for an extra month or two. Never once clicked until he said in the podcast the dates, and I was like, oh my God, that's right. It's just so funny that sometimes when you don't want to remember something, that part of your brain just flicks off and you never remember it again. And that's exactly what I did with this Lego set. I could have had the Lego Star Wars Christmas X-Wing had I stayed at the Lego store an extra month or two, but I didn't, and now I do not have that set, and I do not have the thousands of dollars that I could have sold that set for today. So BCAT, unfortunately, that would have to be my biggest Lego regret ever, was not staying at the Lego store just an extra month to get that Lego Christmas Star Wars X-Wing, because that's crazy set. I really wish I could have stayed, and I have that. That's a regret that I will live with forever. And now that I've remembered it as part of my brain, that part of my brain is, come back. The trauma is over. I have big regrets. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of AskBrick. You'll have to let me know down in the comments below what your biggest Lego regret is ever. I don't know if everyone has, some of you may have even worse ones than me, and some of you may think that mine is the worst one to ever shake the Lego universe, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Anyway, thanks again so much for watching today's video, and don't forget to come back in 2 weeks for a regular scheduled episode of AskBrick, where I'll be answering more than one question and not just telling the story. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys here in the next video.